They refused to even talk to her, until one man in the hospital lobby stood up and said, "Wait. I'm not asking for myself, can I at least ask?" The girl's voice was quiet, but it carried clearly through the hospital lobby, cutting through the constant hum of footsteps, distant announcements, and rolling carts. She stood at the reception desk on her tiptoes, barely tall enough to see over the counter. Her blue dress hung neatly on her small frame, and a bright red backpack rested against her back, its straps worn and slightly frayed. She held on to one of them tightly, as if letting go might cause her to disappear altogether. The nurse behind the desk did not look at her at first. Her eyes remained fixed on the computer screen as she sighed, clearly exhausted and in no mood for interruptions. "You shouldn't be here," the nurse said flatly. "This is not a place for children. Where are your parents?" The girl swallowed. She had practiced this moment in her head all the way to the hospital, rehearsed every word so she wouldn't cry or sound scared. Still, her throat felt tight. "I just wanted to ask," she said again, more softly now. "It's about medicine. For my mom." The nurse finally glanced down, her expression impatient rather than curious. "We don't discuss medical information with children," she replied. "You need to leave." The girl nodded quickly, as if she had expected this answer all along. She took a small step back, her fingers tightening around the backpack strap until her knuckles turned pale. "I understand," she whispered. "I won't take long. I just wanted to know if there's something cheaper. Or maybe, something we could wait for." The nurse turned away, already reaching for paperwork. "I said no," she replied. "Go home." The girl stood frozen for a moment, her eyes fixed on the counter. Around her, adults passed by without slowing down, some brushing past her shoulder without noticing her at all. She felt very small then, smaller than she had felt walking into the building alone. "I'm sorry," she said quietly, more to herself than to anyone else. "I won't ask any more." She turned to leave, her steps slow and careful, as if she were afraid of making noise. That was when a man sitting several rows away looked up. Ethan Carter had been in the hospital for over an hour, waiting for a private meeting with doctors. He was used to hospitals, to their sterile smells and controlled chaos, but he was not used to hearing a child speak with that kind of restraint. He noticed her immediately, the red backpack, the way she held herself too straight, the way she avoided eye contact with everyone around her. As the girl passed by, he heard her murmur under her breath, almost inaudibly, "Mom said it might be like this." Ethan stood up before he fully realized he had decided to. His chair scraped softly against the floor as he stepped forward. "Excuse me," he said, his voice calm but firm. The nurse looked up, surprised now. "Yes?" she asked. Ethan's gaze shifted briefly to the girl, who had stopped walking and was staring at the floor, clearly bracing herself for more rejection. "She asked a question," he said. "And she deserves an answer." The girl slowly lifted her head, disbelief flickering across her face. She hadn't expected anyone to speak for her. Not here. Not anywhere. For the first time since she had entered the hospital, someone was actually looking at her, not past her. And Ethan Carter realized that whatever meeting he had been waiting for no longer mattered. The nurse straightened in her chair, clearly unsettled by the sudden shift in attention. She glanced from Ethan to the girl and back again, her professional mask slipping just enough to reveal irritation. "Sir, this is a hospital," she said. "We have procedures. We can't." "You can answer a child who is asking about medicine for her mother," Ethan replied evenly. His tone was calm, but there was no softness in it now. "Or you can explain why you refuse to." The nurse hesitated. People nearby had begun to slow down, pretending not to listen while doing exactly that. The girl stood a few steps away, unsure whether she was allowed to stay or if she should leave before she caused more trouble. Her shoulders were tense, her body angled toward the exit as if she were already preparing to run. Ethan turned toward her and lowered himself slightly so he wasn't towering over her. "You don't have to go," he said quietly. "Not yet." She looked up at him, her blue eyes wide and uncertain. "I didn't mean to make anyone angry," she said quickly. "I can leave. I really can." "What's your name?" Ethan asked. She hesitated, then answered, "Mia." "Mia," he repeated. "How old are you?" "6, she said, almost apologetically, as if that too might be a problem. Ethan nodded and stood again, turning back to the nurse. "She's 6, he said. "She came here alone to ask about medicine for her mother. If that doesn't earn at least a conversation, I'd like to know what does." The nurse exhaled sharply, clearly uncomfortable now that the situation had become public. "I can't give out medical advice," she said. "Especially not to a child." "No one asked for advice," Ethan replied. "She asked for information." He looked back at Mia. "What exactly were you trying to find out?" he asked. Mia swallowed and clutched her backpack strap again, grounding herself. "My mom has pills," she said carefully. "The doctor gave them to her before. But they ran out. At the pharmacy they said it costs too much now. I just wanted to know if there's another way. Or if there's a list. Or something we could wait for." Her words came slowly but steadily, as if she were placing them down one by one so they wouldn't break. The nurse's expression shifted, not into kindness, but into discomfort. "That's not how it works," she said. "You need insurance, documents, appointments." Mia nodded immediately. "I know," she said. "I just wanted to know where to go." Ethan felt something tighten in his chest at the way she accepted barriers without complaint, as if she had already learned that systems were not built with her in mind. "Who's with your mother right now?" he asked. "No one," Mia replied. "She's sleeping. She told me not to go, but I didn't want her to wake up and still feel sick." Ethan glanced around the lobby again. Adults everywhere. Resources everywhere. And yet a child had walked in alone because there was no one else. "All right," he said decisively. "We're not doing this at the counter." He gestured toward a nearby seating area. "Come sit with me," he said to Mia. "We'll figure this out together." Mia hesitated, looking once more at the nurse, as if asking permission that wasn't coming. "Go on," Ethan said gently. "You're not in trouble." She followed him slowly, every step cautious, as if the floor might change its mind beneath her feet. When she sat down, her legs still didn't reach the ground. She folded her hands in her lap again and waited, just as she had waited at the desk, prepared for the moment when she would be told this was all a mistake. Ethan sat beside her, close enough that she didn't feel alone, but not so close that she felt trapped. "Your mom's name?" he asked. "Anne," Mia answered. "And how long has she been sick?" Mia looked down at her shoes. "Long enough that she stopped pretending she wasn't," she said quietly. That answer told Ethan more than any medical chart ever could. He leaned back slightly and made a decision he would later realize changed far more than just one afternoon. "You did the right thing by coming here," he said. "Now let's make sure you don't have to do it alone again." Mia sat quietly beside Ethan, her back straight, her hands folded so neatly in her lap that it looked rehearsed. She kept her feet tucked back under the chair, as if trying to take up as little space as possible, and her gaze moved carefully between Ethan and the floor. Every few seconds, she glanced toward the reception desk, clearly expecting someone to come over and tell her she had stayed too long. Ethan noticed everything. He noticed the way she flinched when a voice nearby grew louder. He noticed how she stopped herself from swinging her legs, how she seemed to hold her breath whenever footsteps passed close to them. This was not a child who was simply shy. This was a child who had learned, very early, that being unnoticed was safer. "Do you feel okay sitting here?" Ethan asked gently. Mia nodded immediately. "Yes," she said. "I can sit anywhere." The answer bothered him more than if she had said no. "You don't have to prove anything," he said. "You're allowed to be comfortable." She looked at him, confused by the statement, then nodded again, even though it was clear she didn't fully understand what comfort was supposed to feel like. Ethan leaned forward slightly. "Tell me about your mom," he said. "Not the illness. Just her." Mia hesitated. This question hadn't been part of her plan. "She's nice," she said after a moment. "She used to sing when she cooked. Even when we didn't have much, she made it feel normal." Her voice softened as she spoke, and for the first time since Ethan had met her, her shoulders relaxed a little. "She says she's tired because she worked too much before," Mia continued. "She tells me stories when the lights are off, so I won't be scared of the dark." Ethan felt a slow, steady pressure build in his chest. "And now?" he asked quietly. Mia's eyes dropped again. "Now she sleeps more," she said. "Sometimes she forgets to eat. Sometimes she tells me she's fine even when she's shaking." She paused, then added in a smaller voice, "I don't like when she lies to me." Ethan nodded. "Neither do I," he said. They sat in silence for a moment, the noise of the hospital flowing around them. Mia picked at a loose thread on her dress, twisting it between her fingers. "She didn't want me to come here," Mia said suddenly. "She said people don't like being asked for things. Especially people who have a lot." "And what did you think?" Ethan asked. Mia shrugged. "I thought maybe that's true," she said. "But I also thought maybe if I didn't ask, it would be worse." "That's a very hard choice for someone your age," Ethan said. Mia looked up at him then. "I didn't want to be brave," she said honestly. "I just didn't know what else to do." That, more than anything, stayed with him. Ethan reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out his phone. "I'm going to make a few calls," he said. "I won't leave. You'll be able to hear me." Mia nodded, watching him carefully as he stepped just a short distance away. She listened as he spoke quietly but firmly, heard words like prescription, coverage, emergency supply, and patient assistance. She didn't understand everything, but she understood enough to know that something was happening because of her question. When Ethan returned, he didn't sit right away. "Would you be willing to show me where you live?" he asked. Mia froze. "I didn't do anything wrong," she said quickly. "I know," he replied immediately. "This isn't about trouble. I just want to see your mom. To make sure she's okay." Mia thought hard about this. She had been warned about strangers. She had warned herself. But this man hadn't laughed at her. He hadn't ignored her. He hadn't told her to leave. "She won't like it," Mia said quietly. "That's okay," Ethan replied. "You can tell her it was my idea." Mia nodded slowly. "Okay," she said. "But she gets embarrassed." "I'll be careful," Ethan said. As they stood up, Mia adjusted her red backpack on her shoulders, gripping the straps again, grounding herself. She looked very small next to Ethan as they walked toward the exit, but her steps were steadier now.